We have fire. To the coal. Hello, Bill here with Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. Welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Survival is more about than just surviving in the wilderness. It's also about being self-sufficient and repairing our own things, fabricating things, repurposing items, etc. And today what I'm doing is I'm replacing the front crank seal on my Toyota rock crawler. This is a 22RE motor and it has failed big time. It's throwing oil all over the place here. I mean, it's just really all the way over here on the other side. When these fail, the oil will leak. This is the Harmonic Balancer here. This is your oil pump, and there's a seal back behind here in the oil pump bore just behind the Harmonic Balancer, and when that fails, oil will leak through the seal onto the back side of the balancer here. There's a dust shield back here, and as the balancer is rotating, it just throws oil everywhere. And this is how you know your seal has failed, when there's oil all underneath here and just tossed all over. It's over here on the hoses, the alternator up in here. I mean, it even gets slung up towards the top side of the front of the timing cover. So what I've already done, I've eliminated some steps in the video because it's pretty common knowledge. Number one, drain the oil, which I've already done here, and I was due for an oil change anyways, so I went ahead and picked up a fresh filter. I run a Wix brand out of O'Reilly's Auto Parts. It has an anti-drain back valve on it, which is very important. It keeps the oil on the top side of your motor when you turn the engine off, eliminating dry startups. If you don't have an anti-drain back valve, if you're using a filter without an anti-drain back valve, all the oil drains out, and when you start it up, you get that momentary clatter from the top end. That's called a dry startup, and that is responsible for a huge amount of engine wear. So I've done that. I've already loosened the power steering pump belt, and I'm going to loosen the alternator here. There's loosen the bolt on the alternator, and that allows it to pivot. It'll pivot inward and give you slack on your belt. You can pull it off the pulley there. So that's the first two steps, and I didn't cover all that. There is one thing I'm going to go up to the top and cover, and then once the belts are off, I'm also changing the belts today while I'm in here. And I'm going to install what's called a speedy sleeve on the input shaft of the balancer. The balancer is about $1,000, this part right here. And instead of doing that, there's a way you can get around purchasing a new balancer. And I'm going to show you guys how to install a speedy sleeve today, and how to take the old seal out of the oil pump bore and install the new one. And it's a bit of a job, but it's definitely doable by a home mechanic. So anyways, stay tuned. All right, we're on top of the motor now, and this is the belt tensioner pulley here. This is the tensioner bolt. So what you do is you back this bolt out, and a little hard up here. Sorry about all the camera moving around here. I'm standing on my front tire. This truck's lifted. Loosen this bolt, this nut right here on the front of the tensioner, and the tensioner will travel. It's this bracket here. This bracket here is slotted. I've got my fingertip in the slot right here. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. And that allows this tensioner to, as you tighten this down, it moves this tensioner pulley outward, putting tension on the belt. When you loosen this bolt and then loosen this lock nut, once you get the tension where you want it with this, then just snug this nut down, and that will lock this. That will help lock that tensioner pulley in place. So I'm going to go ahead and get the alternator belt loose and go ahead and pull these two belts off, and I'm going to put the new belts on and let them hang free, and they'll be off of the Harmonic Balancer down here, and then we'll get started on pulling that balancer off. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back. Moving along on this. I loosen the alternator. You want to loosen the bottom nut, the bottom bolt rather, and you'll need a wrench and on the back side, and a socket on the front, on the lower one, and that is a number 14 socket and wrench. You loosen that. The top one is a number 12 millimeter, 14 mil on the bottom, 12 millimeter on the top, and that's a slotted bracket up here. Loosen that. It rocks in, and you can pull, gives you slack on the belt, and pull that off. So I've already taken the old belts off, and you can work them right over the fan. There's no need to take the fan off. So I've got the new belts here just hanging. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take off the power steering pump pulley here, and there should be four nuts or bolts back here. Break these loose, and as usual I'm doing stuff by braille because you can't really see in here. And no, I don't remove the radiator. I have a puller that I actually found a small stud for. All the pullers I've seen have had long studs that come out, and there's no room here with the radiator in the way, so I have a nice short one, and that eliminates the need to pull the radiator. The less that has to be done, the better. Yeah, there's 4 in here. I did this last year, and I changed the oil pump, put a new pump on it because the crank seal was leaking. Not this bad, but it was leaking. And I used a crappy seal. So if I'd used a good seal, I wouldn't be in the predicament that I'm in now. This thing just failed the other day, and it's just been, I'm actually amazed at how bad it's leaking. And these are just small bolts here. I do most of my own mechanic work. I'm gonna check and make sure I hit record here. Yeah, I've done that before, start talking and everything, and then come to find out I wasn't even being recorded. These are already loose here. This is a huge greasy mess. This thing threw all over in here. After I'm done, I'm gonna have to really do some degreasing. That's always the last one that gives you trouble. And this comes right off. Well, sort of. There it goes. It's getting hot out here. It's gonna be like 101 today or something like that. Stay out so I don't lose them. All right. Now we have the infamous crank nut, crankshaft bolt here. I had this off last year, so I don't suspect it'll give me any problems. But just the same, I'm gonna throw a little PB blaster on here. The best stuff I've ever found for loosening up stubborn fasteners. I mean, it just eats the rust and everything off. It's just amazing stuff. And the nut size, that bolt size for the crank is 19 millimeters. Find my find the right size. Now, if you have a really stubborn one, you can use what's called the starter bump technique. And what you do with that is, I suggest soaking, if you haven't had that bolt off in a long time or ever, soak it for about a week. Every day, give it a couple shots of PB blaster up in here. You don't have to take that front pulley off like we just did. Just put the nozzle in, soak it until it starts running out. Do it twice a day. And I did it in the morning, again at night when the car's parked. The vehicle's parked for the night. That way the centrifugal force isn't going to spin that out of there. Just let it soak in. And I did that the first time, and I used a propane torch, and I heated this up before I used the starter bump technique, and it just came right off. I mean, smooth as butter. But I've heard some of these can be a real pain in the butt. And starter bump technique is, you take your breaker bar with a proper size socket, and you want to bring it all the way over. You want a long enough bar here. I don't know what this is, probably 24 inches. I call the BFB a big effing bar. You may have to bump the motor a few times, but you want your handle to go up underneath this frame rail on the passenger side. And once you get it on there, bump the starter with this off. And you'll have to keep kind of fitting it until you get it to where you want it right here against that frame rail underneath. And if you have a longer bar, it can go underneath the leaf spring, and then bungee cord that on the handle so it's nice and tight. Make sure this is seated on very well onto the head of your bolt. Pull your coil wire off. You do not want the motor to start. I'm going to repeat that again. Remove the coil wire. And you go inside and you just bump it, because the motor rotates, I believe it's clockwise as you stand facing it. And when you do that, it's going to, when you hit that, it'll crack this bolt loose. You use the starter to do all the muscle for you. Since I've had this off before last year, it shouldn't give me any trouble today, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try doing it the nice guy approach. And put your vehicle, set your emergency brake, block your wheels, and put your transmission in 4th or 5th gear. I currently have mine in 4th. And it's 116 foot-pounds is the torque value for this. See, the motor turned a little. Now we're going against the transmission now. So we're gonna see if this thing is gonna break loose. And I'm actually gonna get back here and get my foot on it. Legs are a whole lot stronger than arms. I may have to use the starter bump technique if it's not going to come loose. Sometimes they're easy and sometimes they're not. No, looks like we're gonna have to bump it. All right, I'm gonna pause this. Stay tuned. Okay, guys. I just bumped it with the starter and broke it loose. I just wanted to get the camera here to where it's more maneuverable. Show you guys what I did here. I get that 19mm socket, my old trusty heavy-duty breaker bar, and you want to wire it. I don't have a bungee cord, so I just had a piece of coat hanger wire floating around, so wired the handle up here. I had to bump the motor a few times with the coil wire off to get the head of that nut positioned to where the handle was pretty close up here, and you have a little bit of play in there too. You can kind of move it a little bit, but you want to have it pretty snug up against that frame rail, and just coat hanger it off. Make sure that that socket is seated onto the head before you do this. You don't want to strip that. That would open up a massive can of worms. When that happens, you have to go and weld a socket to the bolt, and it's just a place you don't want to go. Sorry about the camera moving all around here. This is the coil. Trying to get up in here, the truck's lifted. This is your coil right here, and there'll be a short wire going from the coil to, it goes right to the center of your distributor cap. So this is what you want to disconnect. Just pull it off your coil and lay it over away from it and off to the side. You do not want that engine to start up with that breaker bar on that crank bolt. So give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and get that bolt out of there, and then we're going to pull that harmonic balancer. Stay tuned. Okay, guys, I got the crank bolt out. Just unscrewed it just with my fingers. So once you break it loose, they come out pretty easy. At least they should, anyways. And if I had soaked that with some PB Blaster for a few days prior, it probably would have. I probably could have got it off by hand. Now, what I did, sometimes you get lucky with these balancers. Take a rubber mallet and just tap it. Just tap around it. Don't beat on it. You don't want to bend this thing. They're pretty tough, and you know, with a rubber mallet, do not use anything metal on it. And tap it, which I did here. And sometimes you get lucky and they'll come off by hand, and you don't even have to use a puller. This time I got lucky. So this guy here is I already got it out partway. There it comes. There it is. Whew. That's the harmonic balancer. Wow, this thing's really grooved. This is why I'm going to speedy sleeve it. This balancer is $1,000 if you go and buy one. And you can spend, I don't know what I spent, $20 on the speedy sleeve over at O'Reilly's, something like that. Do you see that groove right here? That groove right there in the middle, that's where the crankshaft, the forward crankshaft seal rides on. And after millions and millions of revolutions, it'll cut that groove in. You can, oh crap, look at that. You can really see it now. And when that happens, you don't have a good seal. So there's a way we can eliminate that with a speedy sleeve. I'm going to show you how to prepare this thing, and I'm going to show you a trick to install it. And the crank seal is right in here, and I'm hoping to be able to get this seal out of here without removing the oil pump. I have a seal puller. Trying to get a look at that seal there. Find my light here. Looking at the lips of the seal, because this thing just suddenly started dumping oil, and they can creep up on you. The problems here, they can definitely creep up on you. I don't see any chunks or anything out of it, but I'm going to try and get this thing out of here. This is a cheap seal. I replaced it with a National Federal Mogul, made in the US, and the Speedy sleeve is also made in the US. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this and see if I can get that seal out of there. And once I get it to start budging, I'll fade back in and show you what I did to get it out of there. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm back. I put my seal remover tool here. That's a seal remover tool, and it looks like I'm going to get lucky today. This is the seal. This black part, this black ring, that's a seal that's pressed in. They're not pressed in real tight. But you gotta be careful because the oil pump bore is aluminum. Try and give you guys a good look here at what I'm doing. There it is. Boom. Popped right out. Really got lucky on that one. Sometimes it could be a major pain in the butt. And looking at the seal, I don't see any. This is the back side. That's the front, and I'm looking at the lips. I don't see any chips or anything out, but I'll tell you what, I ran my thumbnail over that, over this scoring on the input shaft on the Harmonic Balancer, and it has a very deep groove in it. So anywho, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up here, and I'll go ahead and clean this, kind of wipe things up and clean it up a little bit, and then I'm going to show you how to prep that input shaft and the Speedy sleeve for installation. Stay tuned, I will be back. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and install this seal, and this is the new seal. It's a National brand. Take some clean motor oil. You're gonna have to change your oil when you do this anyways. I dip my finger in a 5-quart jug of oil, lubricate the outside of the seal, and the side of the seal that goes in is the open side. You'll see a little spring that runs around on the inside of this, that little thing there. Just be careful that spring doesn't pop off. That provides tension on the lips of the seal against the input shaft. But just run a bead of oil around the outside, and that helps it lubricate it up, so we'll slide it in. So the open side goes in, the solid side faces outward. Just get it positioned on here even, and you can just push it in. It's a little bit at a time. get it offset, just kind of eyeball it and ease it in a little bit at a time so it goes in pretty even. Now that's sunk in far enough to where it gets a little hard to go now, so I'm just going to take the handle of a screwdriver here, a little pick that I have. Let me get up here. This truck's lifted and it's hard to reach from the ground. I'm just going to use my 1/4 inch ratchet. Everybody uses a ratchet as a hammer, right? This belt's running interference here. Get my bigger ratchet out here. Whew. Trying to. This thing is very difficult to reach from the ground. Shit. Just a little bit further here. Just about there. Wanted to go in just a little bit further here on this corner, this edge here. There it goes. Now she's looking pretty good. Whew, killed my neck. Oh. Oh. Okay, I'm back. I had to take a break. I was killing my neck. Reaching up in there. Okay, so here's a Speedy sleeve. And what this does, it goes over this scored input shaft. You can really see the scoring on this thing. I mean, this thing's really bad. So this provides a fresh surface, a new surface for the lips of the seal to ride on. The flange side goes down like this, And then it comes with this handy dandy, they call it an installing tool, that goes over the top just like that, and then you can tap on this to seat it. First, what we got to do is we need to clean this up. Take the grease, the oil rather, off of this thing, and acetone works really good for that. That is actually the recommended solvent for this job. So we're going to use a sealer on here underneath this this speedy sleeve, and we don't want any oil residue under there. Clean it up really good. Go ahead and wipe down the inside of the speedy sleeve. It'll burn that oil off. Okay. What I have here is some emery paper. I'm going to use a piece of this to run it around the outside and knock any burr down that might be on there. It might interfere with the speedy sleeve seating on there properly. I just tore a piece of emery cloth off. So what you want to do is just clean this up. There's a little burr or a lip on that. It'll prevent that sleeve from sliding on. You can really see that. I mean, that is a really nasty groove on there. Believe it or not, this little part, $1,000, if you can believe that. Somebody's making money on them. Somebody's making a lot of money on them. You can get them from wrecking yards, auto recyclers for, I've seen them $40, $50, $60. They're usually really rusty and they almost always have the groove. So speedy sleeve's a good budget-friendly way to repair this, and it's effective. It works well. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. Make sure there's no burr on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this Harmonic Balancer in the freezer. And what that's going to do, it's going to shrink this metal. just a little bit. And the speedy sleeve, I'm going to heat up with a heat gun. And that's going to cause this metal to expand just a little bit. And that is going to make the installation of this a whole lot easier. Then I'm going to take some sealer. I'm going to put a coat of sealer on here. I'm using, and I'll show you what I'm using. Man, that is really a deep gouge. Holy crap. That's where the leak's coming from. And that is where the lip rides. So when this goes on, you want to make sure this clean surface here is going to be in this spot, because we already know where the seal rides, obviously, by looking at this. So if we seat this down, I'm going to say if we seat it all the way down to the bottom, from what I'm seeing here, or almost to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it down just to where this edge is flush right here. And that's going to give us all this new surface area, because the seal, the area that the seal rides on, doesn't change. This remains static. It goes in, it seats, the crank nut tightens down on it, so this doesn't move. This is always going to be in the same spot once it's seated, so we can see where that rides. So if I seat this speedy sleeve down to where the edge is right here, this edge will have all this clean area for the lips of the seal to ride on. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. I'm going to hit it once again with some acetone, because I'm touching it, and that's going to go in the freezer and start getting cold. And this dude here, I'm going to go ahead and heat up. So I'll let this guy cool down for probably, I don't know, I'll give him about 20 minutes. I'm going to take a lunch break, 20-25 minutes. Let this get nice and cold, and that'll cause this metal to shrink slightly. And I'll heat the speedy sleeve up with a heat gun, and I brought gloves to handle it, and then I'll put it on here and then seat it in. Well, I've got some sealer. I'll take sealer and I'll run a bead of sealer around on this. Instructions say to use a non-hardening sealer, so that's what I picked up with some Permatex high temp sealant. I looked for Loctite. They recommend Loctite 602, and nobody has Loctite around hardware stores, auto parts stores, so some people say they don't put anything. All that does, it keeps the oil from seeping past the speedy sleeve and the surface of this input shaft. So I'll just run a light coat around there, and the sealer will also lubricate that and help it slide on. Man, that is deep, deep, deep. That's definitely the issue. I just want to make sure I don't have a burr. I want a nice, clean, smooth surface here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this up, and I shall return. Hey, I'm just pulled the balancer out. It's been in the freezer for a while, and I'm going to heat this up with the heat gun. So this shrinks the metal to cold, and this will expand the metal. I'm hoping this is going to make this installation process a whole lot easier. It's either going to be a colossal success or a colossal failure. I was going to install this thing without filming it and show you guys the after effects, but I figured if somebody's doing this for the first time, the instruction would probably be a good thing. So this is that Permatex Sealer. I just want to put a very thin but even bead on here, and I wiped my fingers down really well with acetone before I did this. This will also help lubricate this thing. Warm this back up. Should be hot enough to where you can barely touch it. Thing positioned here. We'll try the nice guy approach with the rubber mallet first. Going on. Almost there. We're good, we're golden. That actually worked well. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? All right. So that, yeah, that's actually sitting exactly where I wanted it to be. And you'll notice I put the balancer on a piece of wood, so I'm not banging on it on the concrete. Risk of damaging something on the other side. That actually went almost too smooth. A lot smoother than I anticipated. So, ready to start slapping this beast back together. The rest of it's gravy from here on out. It's just putting parts back on. I shall return. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm back after a little break. So we got everything installed there, and this guy is worn back up. Look at that nice clean surface for the lips of that seal to ride on. Very happy how that went together. I lubricated that. I dipped my finger in the jug of motor oil that I'm going to be using to put in the engine here in a little bit, and lubricated the surface all the way around of the Speedy seal. And you want to do that before you slide it in through the lips of the seal there to minimize the possibility of damage. And there's a keyway. Hopefully I'm in frame. There's a keyway here, and there's a keyway on the crankshaft. This is the crankshaft here, so you just want to match those up. So we're going to slide it on. I need a creeper with a an adjustable back that tilts up so I can get up in here. I know a few of you are probably saying, how come he doesn't have a creeper? Well, believe it or not, I don't have a creeper. Okay, so there's the keyway right there. So we're going to stick this on, and the keyway lines up, and it'll only go on one way. With the if the keyway is not lined up, it won't go on. Okay, we're not in deep enough for the threads. It's a little tight in here with the radiator and the fan, but there it goes. There we go. But like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if there's parts I don't have to remove, I won't remove them. I'm just that way. This is the back belt here, the alternator and water pump belt. And it's not on the water pump pulley up here. There we go. Bring this up here, and that one is on, so we're going to run crankshaft bolt in. This is as far as I'm going to go as far as instructions on this, because the rest of it's just moving in the exact reverse of when you started out. And what we're going to do here, I'll just take you guys this far. If anybody ever gets stuck on something, if you ever find yourself in the middle of this project, any Toyota owners with a 22RE, just hit me up in the comments, or you can email me direct at palehorsesurvival@yahoo.com. I'll be real happy to help you out. If nothing else, I can provide some advice and some moral support. Oh, I'm in neutral. I forgot when I was bumping the thing over. Hold on. All right, let's try this again. There we go. It helps if it's in gear. I put it in 4th gear. So the torque wrench is set at about 116 foot-pounds, which is what the torque value of this is, and it's a 19 millimeter socket. You hear that click, we're good to go. There it is. That's 116 foot-pounds right there. Whew. Oh man, I think I'm starting to get too old for this. Never too old, right? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and finish, well, I'll go ahead and keep it rolling, and I'll put the power steering pulley on here. Just so if anybody's following this and they're not sure where to go from here. Alright, find my socket here. 14, where'd the other socket go? Alright, I lost my socket as usual. Oh, here it is. Okay, so now we're going to put the power steering pulley on, and these are 12 millimeter, and these are the four small bolts that we started out with here. A little difficult to see up in here. Trying to get these lined up here. That should be close. Doing it by braille again. The old fingertip method. Get that thread in. There it goes. Once we get one started, the rest will line up. So get these four in, and then the power steering belt. It's already on up above, and yeah, goes on right here. Ah, these new belts are stiff. There it goes. I got a big degreasing project under here. That one don't want to go in. Very hard to get to. There it goes. My hand just doesn't bend that way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this. You guys know how to tighten bolts, I'm sure. So I'll tighten those four down, and then I'm going to adjust the belt tension here. and put the coil wire back on, the air box back on, which I moved out of the way so I get down into the top to that belt tensioner. And then I just got to put the oil filter on. I already put the oil drain plug back in and just top the oil off, and I'll come back when we start it up and check for leaks. I will see you guys then. And now today's shade tree mechanic tip of the day. When you're done using your torque wrench, before you put it away, back off that set screw on the bottom. You don't want to put it away under tension. It has a tendency to screw your torque wrench up. Well, she's all back together. I've got the oil in and let it run here for a little bit. Don't see any leaks. See how it does. It's running a lot quieter with those new belts. Nice and dry. I don't see any issues yet. I'm going to drive it around and keep an eye on it over the next couple of days. But I got a big greasy mess in here. I'm going to have to hit all this with degreaser and clean all this up. It sure threw it everywhere. Man, I can't believe how quiet this thing runs with those new belts. It was really getting kind of noisy, those belts being worn. Well, I hope this video helps somebody out there. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm always happy to provide advice. You guys have a great day or night, depending on where you're located, and I will see you all very soon on the next one. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.